Hi everybody, welcome to my physical world. We were talking about in class the size of Israel and how small and compact it really is. Just so you guys can understand the perspective of geography of Israel itself. All right. So I'm going to show you on my computer so you guys can understand. We'll look at some 3D stuff and do that kind of stuff. So this is Israel. This is the basic shape of Israel. From north to south, Israel is from the northern tip up here in the anti-Lebanese mountains down to the city of Eilat. We're talking about 468 kilometers, all right? So 468 kilometers is actually about 290 miles, all right? All my measurements on this map are in kilometers. So if you want to calculate kilometers, a kilometer is 0.62 miles. All right, so a little bit more than half the size of a mile. All right, so the north-south, it's 290 miles. From the furthest east and west point, right here in the southwest corner of Gaza, which is this little strip right here, that's called the Gaza Strip. And if I measure from that southeast corner of Gaza over here to the Jordan River, actually to the Dead Sea, we are getting about 98 kilometers. So it's about 60 miles or so. Okay, so knowing the small size of north and south, 290 by approximately 60 miles wide. All right, now let's talk about the geopolitical boundaries without getting anything political for those that are Palestinian watching this video or Israeli. That's not what I'm teaching. Okay, I'm not talking about the geopolitical situation. We are just talking about some basic boundaries to understand the size of Israel. All right, now if you follow my mouse, anything inside this polygon right here is what would be considered Israel. All right. Now, there's some contested areas. We're not here to talk about those, such as the Golan Heights and all that stuff. That's not what I'm trying to teach you. All right. But this strip right here is Israel. This chunk in the middle, right here, this is Palestine, and this is Palestine. This is the Gaza Strip, and Palestine is broken up into, they call it Samaria, which is the northern part, and Judea, which is the southern part. All right. Now, for biblical studies, we need to look at all of this area together. All right. Now, let's take a quick scan north to south and talk about some of these areas. So I'm going to zoom into the northern portion of Israel. All right. So we are looking at the northern part, north of Samaria, north of here. This area right here is what we would hear in the news called the Golan Heights. All right. Up here is the anti-Lebanon mountains right here. Mount Hermon would be a little bit northeast of where this is. This right here is the Hula Valley. The city of Dan sits about right here. All right. Matter of fact, let me turn on the biblical cities. All right. So here's Dan right here. Okay. These mountains right here are known as the Lebanon Mountains, and Mount Harom is in the Lebanon Mountains. All right. Let me turn off these cities here real quick. All right. Now, this blank spot right here, this is the Sea of Galilee. All right. This hilly area right here, anything below the Lebanon Mountains, this area right here, is Galilee. All right. This plain right here is known as the Plain of Akko, which is a city that sits right here on this corner. This big plain right here, this valley right here, is the Jezreel Valley. Very extreme fertile soil right here. This long mountain range, it's not really big gigantic mountains or anything, but this is Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel is not specifically a single peak like we would think of about a mountain. Mount Carmel is this whole thing right here. So when you hear Mount Carmel in the Bible, it is this entire part right here. Now there's some locations that they have excavated that points to certain events in the Bible about Mount Carmel. Okay, we can talk about those later, but those are specific points on this big mountain. All right, so this is the Jezreel Valley right here. Okay, so that's the northern part of Israel. So you got Golan Heights, you got both the Anti and the Lebanon mountains, you got the Hula Valley, you got the Sea of Galilee, and you got the region of Galilee, which is right here in these hill countries. All right, so let's pan down a little bit and we'll go into Samaria. Okay, Samaria, these can be called the Samarian Hills, or modern day they call it the Central Mountains. Okay, the Central Mountains go all the way down past south of Jerusalem. These are called the Central Mountains, but biblical times, this was Samarian Hills. Okay, this is the region of Samaria. All right, this little pocket right here, okay, this is where Jerusalem is. Sits about right here. Let me turn on the biblical cities. Okay, so Jerusalem sits right here. All right, and let me turn off these. I got more biblical cities than I have modern cities. All right, so there's Jerusalem with the star right there. All right, so let me turn these off. Sorry guys, this is a little confusing here. All right, so here's where Jerusalem is, and other towns around that we can talk about at another time. Now, the Central Mountains, like I said, the Central Mountains of Israel start up here and they go all the way down through here, south of Jerusalem. All right, this is Judea, and this is Samaria up here. But this valley right here is kind of a natural break point. So anything north of this valley, they consider the Samarian mountain, the Samarian Hills, and anything south of this valley, they call the Judean Mountains. All right. This wide open plain here is what they call the coastal plain. North of ancient Joppa, it would be the Sharon. Down here is the Palestinian plain. All right. This area, this is the Dead Sea right here, part of the Dead Sea. It actually comes across and goes into Jordan. Okay, so this is the Dead Sea. And this area between the Dead Sea and the Judean Mountains, okay, this right here is called the Judean Desert. This right here is where Jesus spent his 40 days and 40 nights. All right, this is the wilderness that is spoken about in the Bible. Now, sometimes you will hear down here is called the wilderness, but this is a different wilderness. This down here in the southern part of Israel is the Negev. All right, this right here, this big area right here is, well, not this really. This is not the Negev. This is the Negev over here. Okay, this is the Negev, which is also sometimes called the wilderness, but not to be confused with the wilderness that Jesus spent his time in. Okay, here we talk about the wilderness of Paran and the wilderness of Zin. Okay, however, those are further east of this wilderness. All right, but this is the southern part of Israel, known as the Negev. Now let's look at some three-dimensional stuff. Well, some profiling basically is what I'm going to do for you. All right. Now, I said that the widest point of Israel was 60 miles from here to over here to the Jordan River. But notice that this small strip coming up through here, okay, that's even closer. So let's get our measure tool, and we're going to measure from the Mediterranean Sea over to this spot right here. And we are, if you notice up there in this little box up here, it gives you the measurements, okay? We're 13 kilometers across, all right? That is a very narrow, spot. And 13 kilometers is actually 8 miles, okay? So the narrowest point of Israel is 8 miles across, okay? So Israel is compact, very compact. So let's take a look at the topographic or the relief of the area in terms of how it goes uphill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my three-dimensional tools, and I'm going to draw a line. Let me turn some cities on for reference. So here's Jerusalem, here's Ashdod, over here is the Dead Sea, is this flat area right here. So I'm going to measure, I'm going to draw a line from the Mediterranean Sea through Jerusalem all the way to the Jordan River on the east. So it draws a line. Let me change that color of that line so you can see it. So now it's yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a profile, a three-dimensional profile from this point over here to the Jordan River. So you can get an idea of the topography between those 2 points to scale. All right? So this point right here where it's at sea level, which is 0, is the coast right off of Ashdod. And then Jerusalem is sitting about right here on top of this hill right here. They call them hills. All right? Then we go down to the Jordan Rift Valley, which is this flat part here. All right? Notice the incline of that land right here. It goes way down really, really fast. The distance between here and here, okay, it's, so Jerusalem is 54 kilometers. Jerusalem is 54 kilometers from the Mediterranean Sea. That's what these numbers down here mean. So from the Mediterranean Sea to Jerusalem is about 54 kilometers. All right? From Jerusalem to the Jordan River is, what is that, 26 kilometers? So we're not talking about a big distance there. We're only talking 16 miles from Jerusalem to the Jordan River. All right? But I need you to see this. From this point, which sits around 800 meters above sea level, at the Jordan River, we are almost, well, at the Dead Sea, we're at 400 plus minus below sea level. So that is a change in elevation of 1,200 meters. Okay? So, what is 1,200 meters? Well, it's easy to find out what 1,200 meters is you take 1,200 and multiply that by 3.2808, and you get 3,936 feet difference in elevation in only that 13 miles. You're dropping almost 4,000 feet in 13 miles. All right? So when they say they went up from Jericho to Jerusalem, they really went up 4,000 feet. All right? So that's a profile across the midsection of Israel. So we come up the plain right here, the coastal plain, and then we get into the Judean hills or Judean mountains. And then when we get to Jerusalem and head down to the Jordan River, we drop really fast. We drop like a rock. All right? So that's what that looks like. So if we want to zoom up here to, let's go into Galilee. And just so you can have a picture. Now, Bob was talking about standing at the high point at Nazareth and looking toward Megiddo, which is, let me turn off the modern cities, turn on the biblical cities. So here is Nazareth. Let me get my draw tool. So here's Nazareth right here. Okay, so the highest point sits about right here. And we go and make a point down here to Megiddo. Double click that. And then I'm going to do a profile between those 2 points. All right, now it's flipped around. The high point would be near Nazareth, and then over here on the right side would be Megiddo. So we are dropping almost 500 meters into the center of the Jezreel Valley. It's just a little above sea level right here in the middle of this valley. All right, so that's over 1,500 feet, almost 1,600 feet. And we're only talking a distance of about 6-7 miles, all right? And then it goes up to where Megiddo is right here, all right? So the topography of Israel is really compact, okay? Now let's take a look, let's have some fun, and let's look at Israel in actual 3 dimensions. All right, so here I have Israel. And let me zoom out for you. And you are looking at Israel in 3 dimensions. Okay? It's the same data I've been using. Okay? But I've turned on 3-dimensional space. All right? And each one of those green dots is a biblical city. So you can kind of see that this point right here sits on top of this hill, and that point sits on top of that hill, and etc. And all these cities up in the Golan Heights area. But look how narrow. Remember, from here to over here is 60 miles. But this geography changes so dramatically. All right? So I have the vertical exaggeration on this as 3 times. I'll turn it to 1 so you can get an idea of what it would look like in real life. Okay? It looks almost flat, but the Earth is really big, all right? So I'm going to turn on some vertical exaggeration so you can get a better idea of how compact this area really is, all right? Now I need to take my cities and make those three-dimensional elevations match, okay? So now we have the cities on top of the hills, all right? But if you notice how Israel really is, it's so tight and compact, all right? So we can pan and zoom, and we can drop ourselves into the Jordan Valley. Okay, now this is 8 times exaggeration if we were sitting on the valley floor. Okay. So let's change this back, and let's change this back to 1, except I'm below the surface. All right. So this would be like if you're standing on the ground. You can't see anything that's on the other side. All right. These are the Judean hills, but you notice the brown that shows up. That would be Jerusalem up on this hill. Okay. So pretty dramatic, all right? So we'll turn on some another vertical exaggeration. Well, let's do it 2 times just so you can get a feel. But remember, the Earth is bigger than we think it is. And vertical exaggeration pretty much gives us an idea of how tight things are, okay? Because in the real world, looking from an airplane is basically what we would be doing right now. It doesn't look as impressive unless you do some vertical exaggeration. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So this is just a quick tour, and I'll be doing some more videos on this. So kind of gives you an idea. So hope this helps, and we'll talk to you guys later.